Hello friends, thanks for joining us here on the Race to Zero Dialogues. Before we look forward, let us cast a quick glance back to 2014 and 15 in the run-up to the Paris Agreement. Many of you will remember that you actively participated in creating a groundswell of support from public and private stakeholders for a science-based, globally agreed plan of action that was both fair and ambitious. It was precisely that groundswell that gave the comfort to national governments to move ahead to adopt the Paris Agreement. Now, fast forward to 2020, in the run-up to COP26. Here we are in a similar situation, except now it is not about building and designing that plan of action. Now it is about implementing that plan of action in a manner that is both positive for the economy and protective of natural systems. That is the race to zero. It is the groundswell of action for the national governments that need to move forward at COP26, setting new targets and then putting forward the policies and incentives at the domestic level. That is why it is so important that between now and COP26, all stakeholders, including cities, regions, business, finance, everyone, have the vision of where we need to go, but also demonstrate the implementability of zero net by 2050 or before. And I stress or before, because let's remember that it is the cumulative nature of the greenhouse gas emissions that make every day, every month, every year count. And they count in our favor if emissions decrease. They count to our detriment if emissions continue to increase. Reduction of emissions, as you well know, has always been urgent, but never as consequential as right now. Because, as we know, we have entered into the decisive decade, the most consequential decade in the history of humankind, without an exaggeration. We must, by 2030, have been able to cut our greenhouse gas emissions by 50% as compared to where we are now. If we don't do that, as we all know, we walk into a world of constant and increasing physical destruction and untold human misery. Conversely, if we're able by 2030 to have cut our emissions by 1/2, we would open the door to a world that not only avoids dystopia, but actually builds a much cleaner, safer, more resilient world than we have right now. Luckily, compared to where we were in our understanding of these issues 5 to 10 years ago, when PPP, planet, profit, and people was only a theory, we have now totally understood that that is not a theory. That is the reality that we are living in. It is the reality that now we must give our full attention and our efforts to the resurgence of nature, to human well-being, and to a new kind of global economy built on clean and renewable technologies. Far from being the mutually exclusive scenario that we thought 5 or 10 years ago, these three components are actually mutually supportive. As we have heard from Johan and Sandrine, they are not just mutually supportive, they're systemically supportive and dependent on one another. If we want one of the three, we have to pursue all the others. We are now at the point in which we can no longer afford to choose between them, but rather we have to actively and urgently make our choice for all of them. And that choice needs to be intentional, it needs to be engaged and active, and above all, it needs to be timely. Thanks very much for joining us at these Race for Zero dialogues. I hope you have wonderful conversations, and above all, I am counting on all of you to engage in and to win the race to zero. Thanks.